Remember back in 2021 and 2022 when Republicans were going after this critical race theory all the time, CRT? I feel like that died down after a while and they started going after DEI instead, but Trump is actually going to go after critical race theory on the college campuses. This is an article from the LA Times. Trump's orders take aim at critical race theory and anti-Semitism on college campuses. President Trump is ordering U.S. schools to stop teaching what he views as critical race theory and other material dealing with race and sexuality, or risk losing their federal money. A separate plan announced Wednesday calls for aggressive action to fight anti-Semitism on college campuses, promising to prosecute offenders and revoke visas for international students deemed to be Hamas sympathizers. So what he means by Hamas sympathizers is actually just people who are skeptical of excessively pro-Israel policy, sending too much aid to Israel, assisting them too much in their offensive actions against Palestine. It's not that they sympathize with Hamas at all, actually. Both plans were outlined in executive orders Trump signed Wednesday. The measures seek to fulfill some of the Republican president's core campaign promises around education, though it's unclear how much power he has to enact the proposals. His order on K-12 schools declares that federal money cannot be used on the indoctrination of children, including radical gender ideology and critical race theory. It says civil rights laws barring discrimination based on sex and race would be used to enforce the order, calling critical race theory an inherently racist policy. Okay, now hold on a second. Critical race theory and inherently racist policy? I thought critical race theory was a subject that was being taught. What's going on here? He's conflating a bunch of different things. Examples cited in the order include a policy at Harrisonburg City Public Schools in Virginia requiring teachers to use students' preferred names and pronouns. Another policy at Madison Metropolitan School District in Wisconsin says schools should, quote, disrupt the gender binary by teaching students to embrace different gender identities, according to the order. I'm concerned that that's a little bit of a straw man of what's going on there. I don't know for sure. That does sound a little extreme, but again, they have every incentive to characterize it as the worst thing ever. Disrupting the gender binary is something that's kind of bizarre to tell your students. Like, there's a lot of other things to focus on in school rather than disrupting the gender binary. The Education Department's Office for Civil Rights investigates allegations of civil rights violations and can impose sanctions of up to a total loss of federal money, though that policy penalty has almost never been used and must be approved by a judge. Trey Walk, a researcher and advocate with Human Rights Watch, says the president's order is an attempt to suppress teaching about race and racism. Quote, students have a right to learn about how discrimination can be entrenched in law and society. If the U.S. denies young people this knowledge, it has little hope of eradicating racism. I largely agree. People do need to learn about how history and how the law, historically have fostered discrimination. That doesn't mean saying that, we live in a society that is only full of discrimination right now, that discrimination is the only reason for anything. I'm not a believer in disparate outcomes, meaning disparate treatment or discrimination, but people do need to learn about historically how racism was built into the law, how sometimes facially neutral laws, they can be racist in some ways. It doesn't mean the entire thing is racist, but some laws that are facially neutral do have nefarious motives. Trump also directed the Education Secretary to craft a strategy within 90 days to end indoctrination in K-12 education. Trump's appointed billionaire professional wrestling mogul Linda McMahon as his education chief, but her Senate confirmation hearing has not been scheduled. During his campaign, Trump said he would sign an order on day one to cut federal money for schools that push critical race theory or other, quote, inappropriate content. The federal government provides billions of dollars to schools every year, though the vast majority of their money comes from state and local sources. The term critical race theory is used by conservatives as a catch-all for subjects they don't want to be taught in the classroom, though in reality it refers to a complex academic and legal framework taught in some colleges centered on the idea that racism is embedded in the nation's systems. Yeah, and teachers are allowed to have their opinions on how much or how little racism is embedded in America's systems, the laws, whatnot. And I agree with this, that critical race theory is just something that right-wingers tend to use against anything that purports to have basically anything that argues that there's racism in America when you get down to it. So a curriculum that mentions slavery and perhaps teaches about it a little bit, they would say that's critical race theory. And in fact, some officials in Florida even did that. They said schools should not be allowed to teach about slavery at all, saying that it's critical race theory, that it's anti-American propaganda. It's like, it's not anti-American propaganda. The fact is it existed, and you know what else? It was ended. It was ended. So you can use that to basically push a pro-American agenda, to say, hey, in 1865, the United States fought a war within itself to end slavery. You can teach the good and the bad. And the fact of the matter is that the good prevailed when slavery was plaguing the nation. The good prevailed, and now we are slavery free for 160 years. That's a good thing. So yeah, I just don't understand where these people come from in complaining about so-called critical race theory. Let me know what you think in the comments below. As always, please like, comment, or subscribe to the channel. Thank you so much for watching. This has been The More the Merrier, and I will speak to you in my next video.